Yeah, we're done. We're started. Okay,
Okay.
Achin.
All right. And then the second part of the demo. So first will be digital process transformation. And then the second part would be the data liquidity, which will be Excel to SAP, which is mass data updates. Um, and I'll cover the end user experience. If you are interested, I can cover the developer experience, but I think you already know this. So, let's see how we go through, and then we can decide if you want to cover this. But majority of the time we'll spend on the end user experience. Um, so here is here is an example of a landing of a portal, a landing page where all your solutions can be listed in one place. So you can start with a portal with all your solutions in one place. Then from there you could have, click on a cost center, create change, or profit center, create change. It will open a form, and those forms have SAP functions, look and feel, easy to use behaviors. And then it will have a workflow. The workflow can have sequential parallel tasks, emails, escalations, reminders, all of those things. So I'll cover all of those things, live, and show you all the emails and how they come through. And then once the process is digitized, how do you have a full audit history of individual requests, but then also for the whole aggregated view of all your requests. How are you performing from an SLA perspective? So you mentioned last time that you wanted to create a COE, and then you are servicing the business, and having these sort of analytics really helps you on the continuous improvement journey, because then you have a data driven approach to continuous improvement. So that's what we will go through. Let's start off with this is what a portal can look like, right? So I've got, you can have transactional processes here, or you could have, master data processes here. I'll open a business partner solution just for an example, and that can have maps and lookups and external validation and all sorts of things. In the cost center and profit center, I've kept it clean, and I don't have any of these other fancy things. But yeah, you can have external integrations as well if you need. So now let's jump into one of the other solutions, the cost center solutions that I wanted to show you. So as an end user, they can start from the portal, but I've not published this to the portal yet. So I'm going to start it from here. Let's say I want to create a brand new cost center. So I'm going to click on this option. As soon as the form opens up, it identifies who the requester is, when is it created. I have the option to either create or change. So if I click on change, then a search criteria opens up. If I say I want to just do a blank create, then a form opens up for me. So then I can, type things in. I can select it from SAP search help, what my controlling area is. So you have live search help. Some of these fields can be auto-populated. Some of these things, are pull down menus that are built within the solution. So in the previous solution, we had SharePoint lists. So these kind of resided on SharePoint. In the solution that I'm showing you, we have something called reference data lists. And so all of these pull down menus can be managed in reference data lists. So I'm going to just give a name here. And
and what does it mean, the reference data list compared to SharePoint?
it's the same, but we now don't rely on SharePoint. So this whole platform that you're seeing has no reliance on SharePoint. So we are share, you don't need to have the SharePoint, and that has lots of other benefits. But the fact that you don't need to manage SharePoint is a big
Okay.
one.
And just a question also in the integration. So how much of the data that you pull directly out from SAP, that you do it on a batch job, let's say that now you want to know your department. You have to define here the department, and you want to get the list from SAP. Let's say that departments change constantly, which is probably not
Yeah.
the case, but let's say there's a few that change constantly. Is that something that you can query directly into the system,
Yeah,
or do you
it's
normally
live.
then
So
push?
so in
Okay.
this example that I showed you controlling, this was live SAP.
Okay.
I clicked on this button. When in SAP you do F4 lookup.
Yeah.
This is exactly the same. I'm doing an F4 lookup from here, and I'm getting the list of values directly from SAP.
Okay.
Right.
And
So yeah.
Actually, isn't it like a bit of sort of design knowledge when you start building this? You work out which ones you need to be live, which ones can be cached every few days, and which ones don't move, so you can have a static table. That's sort of like a design sense, isn't it?
Yeah,
of
exactly.
course. Yeah.
Exactly. So
Mm.
you don't want these SAP search help on
No.
every field, because every time you click, it actually does an SAP lookup, and then it gives me the list, right? So it has a
It will affect the
1.5 second
performance,
delay,
right?
versus this is live. This is just available right away. So
Yeah.
So yeah, you can have live, you can have sort of static, or if I'm doing a change, I can also do a live search. So now it's not just one field. I want to search based on 3 or 4 different criteria. I can also do that. And I'll show you when I go through a change example. I'll show you that example, right? And then I'm saying, okay, I want to, what is this cost center for? So I'll select some options here, and then I'm going to say, who is it going through from a workflow perspective. So in this case, I have 2 steps. It is going to go through the controlling team and then the master data team. I'm going to select myself today, but in a real scenario, it should go to different teams. This can be pre-populated. It can be based on the controlling area or company code. We can pre-populate that, so you don't even have to select it. Right, I'm going to give my comment and then say save and route. And as soon as I do that, the form, the task goes to the next person in this process. The next person was the controlling team. And so they receive a task here in their inbox. I would also receive an email in my Outlook informing me that I need to do something. So as a controlling person, I go in, and now I can't change any of this information. I can review it. I can give my comments. If I wanted the controlling person to add more information, I could do that. But in this case, I've kept it, simple. The next person cannot do anything. They can approve it.
Can I ask you a bit technical question here?
Sure.
Like when you set the fields to be not editable, do you have to set it field by field, or you can do this area cannot be edited?
Yeah, so you can do it by group. So you can say this particular group that I said cost center top one, that cannot be editable, but the second group can be editable. And so each person can have a persona based view. So as it goes through, the controlling person can have one group with only 2 fields which they can edit. The rest of the group they can't edit, and so
That's
that can be done. And that's similar to what we built in the material master space, right? So you would have, I don't know, have you seen those solutions?
Not yet.
Okay. All right, those are much more sophisticated compared to what I'm showing you here, because that as an object,
because
it's very
from experience,
complicated.
it gets very quickly out of control if you need to go field by field the
Correct.
selection.
Yeah, and so it can be done by groups, right? And now it's come to the last person in the process, which is the master data team. They can review it, and then they can say, okay, create the cost center, and then the cost center is created. No profit center is specified, but the cost center itself is created. So I can just click. Let's take this. I'm going to go here, and so you can see the cost center is created live in SAP. Right, so no retyping of information. You can have any sort of rules that you want to build around the form. So if you in your presentation you had said based on my company code, employee type, can I pre-populate a lot of these fields? Yes. So if you have those rules, we can pre-populate it, and then you don't even need to see some of these fields on the screen, right? So a lot of those things can be done, and then once it comes through the approval, the master data team can review it, click a button, and it can be loaded.
And you can also define which scenarios you want to approve and which ones you don't want to approve.
Yeah. See, well, in this case, I'm only doing one cost center at a time. So I can say, I want to reject this. I've already created, so I need to complete it. But otherwise, I can say I want to reject it. It will go back, and then they'll have to change it.
What I'm saying is that let's say that in general we have this defined set of rules, and if we just lock into these rules, then we don't even want to do approval. then it just flows directly to the system.
Sure.
And
Yeah,
then
yeah.
if you have like, some exceptions or some area where you want to do more tight governance, then you do approval.
That's
Correct.
right.
Correct. Absolutely correct. Yeah.
But you can do that, or we do that on the material master. So depending on the material type and depending on the field's criticality, we are issuing QA approval of if the user is changing PXP fields.
Okay.
Though it really fast gets quite complex when you start doing that, and then it will take a long time to build this solution. At least that's what we are seeing, because it is added functionality, right? So.
Yes.
Yeah. The design time will take much longer because you'll have to define all the rules, all the permutation combinations. Yeah.
Of course.
Absolutely.
And I think we have in mind that we need to keep it as simple as possible.
Yeah, and then we are having both rules and default values, and at least for us in the process, if you have a rule, then the end user is not touching the field. Then it is a rule applying no matter what. And if it's a default value, then it's changeable. And then you probably need these approval processes, or again, depending on the fields, right? But that's a segregation we have done.
Yeah.
But I can talk more into that later.
Cool.
And then for any of these, there is full audit histories. In this case, I did all the tasks, so you'll see my name. But if I look at one of these processes, I can look at the process history, and then it will tell me, who started it, when was it started, who approved it, when was it approved, and when was it completed. So a full process history is available for each of these tasks, right? And then I
May
said,
I ask a question here? What if the workflow gets stuck somewhere? What can we do then?
and why would it get? So what would be the reason that you think it will get stuck?
I don't know. I just have experience with Nintex workflows. And,
someone not doing anything, someone not approving. Is that an example? So someone just
didn't receive an email for some reason, or not approving, and then you need to either restart or restart in the middle,
out
maybe.
Of office.
Yeah.
So there are 3 or 4. So absolutely correct scenarios, right? Someone is not actioning it. Automatically, we can send reminders. So that is just a flag. We can say send reminders, and every day, or you set the time limit, and we can send reminders to that person, so they will get emails. The second option is you can send escalations. So you can define from a hierarchy perspective what their managers are, and then we can send escalations to their managers. So that is another option. The third thing that often happens is out of office, right? What if they are not in the office, they are sick? How do you manage those? So if it's planned out of office, then we give a way to do out of office, and then whoever is a subordinate, whoever is taking care of those tasks, they will receive their task in their inbox, and they will receive the email. And then if it's unplanned out of office, then an admin will have to go in and then reassign those tasks to someone else.
So it has like a debugging tool like Power Automate, where it shows you where it got stuck and why it got stuck.
Yeah. I mean, the process history that I showed you, it's not just for completed tasks. Even for ongoing tasks, there's a full process history, and it tells you which step it's stuck.
And it, like, for example, if we also, when we're developing the workflow, a lot of times it shouldn't happen, but it would happen that we missed some logic, and then let's say value is 0 when it should be 1, and then it's stuck. We would see that this is the spot, where it messed up.
Right.
But in terms of stock, when you go to production, you will have a possibility to do various reports using Tableau and connect into the solution. At least that's what we will do for the material master, so we can actually see where we stuck in the process, who is where's work piling up, and not pointing fingers at anyone, but we will have the overview and are able to go in and support those that we see have an issue of some kind. And you need to do sort of the same.
Correct. So something like this, right? So this is for material master, but because I've not built something for finance yet. But essentially, this is an aggregated view of all the tasks that are that have gone through, and then you can filter by I want to look at just approve or something that are just late, and then I can just look at late requests and then filter my data. In this case, I'm using Power BI, but as Michael said, you can do the same thing in Tableau.
But again, I would not expect that you are stuck within production because you have validated your solution before you push it into production, no matter if you're in a non-GXP environment. The system is GXP, so you need to do it. And that's where you verify that what you're trying to do is also possible, right? So, and then
that's probably more development, yeah, when we...
Yeah, so for the development, you'll have the full roles of all all those that are in, and you'll be able to go in and fix it yourself.
Yeah, as I said at the beginning, here are the emails, right? So you can see people would receive emails. The emails can have attachments, so that attachment can show you the form that is coming through. So if the user needs to approve something via the email, they could look at the attachment on their phone, click on approve. So we can have a button here to approve or reject in the email itself. So they can do approval or reject through mobile. The emails can be customized. So within the email itself, there will be a button to kind of open the task if they need to, instead of every time going to the task list in Evolve. So yeah, it's very user friendly and full audit is available.
Can they approve through email, or they need to go?
No, they can approve through email.
Directly from the body of the email. Yeah.
So that was a simple customer create with very less functionality. Let me show you another example, which is cost center change. So the same solution, I'm just going to open the same solution, but now I'm going to click on the change option. So again, now a rule runs as soon as I click that button. Now I am showing a different sort of subscreen on the form, and then I can say, show me all the cost centers where I'm the person responsible. I click on search. Now, based on my controlling area and person responsible field, I'm doing a search in SAP. I could have searched based on other fields as well. So now it's doing a query in SAP, and this is the cost center that we just created. So let's say I want to change this cost center. And then, similar to the previous one, I could have, search helps here as well. Let's say I want to change the hierarchy to H1, and as soon as I change something, we highlight those, and then yeah, I can do the same thing. I can then pass this through the same sort of approval, and then it can be approved and validated and then updated into SAP, right? So again, you can extract, make the relevant changes. We will highlight what was changed, pass that through the approval, and then it gets updated. Yeah. Any questions on this? I will now show you the hierarchy one as well.
Maybe you've answered it before, but is it a cloud-based or hosted solution that we have in Novo Nordisk?
It's a hosted solution in Novo Nordisk, but it can be hosted in private cloud. So yeah, it can be hosted on Azure and AWS. But I think in your case, you have hosted it on your data centers.
It's actually a cloud solution, but the cloud is private to Novo Nordisk. So, but anyway, that's more or less the same. But you shouldn't worry about the infrastructure. That is up to system management to ensure that is in place. But yeah, it is a cloud.
Yeah, just what I'm asking. It looks so smooth and quick, everything that I hope it's gonna be the same for us later on.
That's why we want to upgrade to Evolve.
and that was to the earlier comment, right? Our previous version was on SharePoint, and SharePoint created a lot of that lag. And that was one of the key drivers for us to remove the dependency on SharePoint, and that has given us this whole better user experience. All right, so the next example, this is much more involved. So I want to, let's say, change the cost-centered hierarchy. So I'm going to open one of these solutions. So this is based on what you had shared, right? So I have, where is the tree structure? Right, so basically you want to search for a cost center, identify where in the hierarchy it is, and then if I wanted to add a new node, I want to identify where I want to add that new node, etc. Right, so it's that scenario. So here again, I can select the right controlling area, so I can do a search, live SAP search.
You know, he said how fast it was going.
Exactly.
Demo land.
You know what? I'm going to restart this. So this is actually a system which is based in the US, but still I would expect it to be fast. So okay, so let me highlight while I'm here. Let me highlight one more concept here, right? So okay, there we go. Now it came off, which is let's close this. Okay, so Michael, we discussed this concept of apps. So because I have access only to these 3 apps, I see only these 3 apps. But in a real system, if there are 5 different functional areas, and each person will be assigned only to a specific app. So in this case, I have access to finance app, and so I can see finance solutions, and I have access to NPI app, so I can see NPI solutions. So this is how the whole app structure would work. And then within that app, you have full autonomy to manage what the policies are, what the preferences are, what the solutions are, etc. So this is how the app structure works, right? And so within the finance app now, yeah, go on.
Could I ask here, is this app structure, is that also respected in the Excel solutions, or will the user have access to all templates?
No, it's respected even in the Excel solutions.
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. Thanks.
Yeah. Right. So
just a quick question.
Yes.
Now here you're showing a WinShuttle Evolve, right? So
yeah.
what is WinShuttle Evolve? What is WinShuttle Developer, and what is WinShuttle Composer?
Good question.
Okay, so let's keep the developer aside. So WinShuttle Evolve is so there are 2 different products: WinShuttle Foundation and WinShuttle Evolve. WinShuttle Foundation is our previous version, which was SharePoint based, and WinShuttle Evolve is our SharePoint free version of the same platform.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah, that's
now,
the one we want to operate to.
Correct.
Yes.
And within Foundation, the development area to build the forms, so where you are building these solutions, is called Composer. And the same sort of Composer is also available in Evolve. So we just call it Solution Builder now.
And the license you need to get access to that is called Developer.
Correct. So that's just
the license. Okay,
yeah,
got it.
That's just the license name.
Now connected all the dots. Thanks.
You've connected the dots. Absolutely.
All right. So here I've selected the controlling area. I then want to search for a group. If I don't know the group, let me click on this button. It helps me search for a group. Let's say D star. Let's find a group. I can find it by the top node only. So I had the option here to only search it by top node or not. I found these are the list of all the sort of groups available. I'm going to select DG demo group. So as soon as I click on that, now automatically that group is now expanded. So it's got all the hierarchy for that group. So for this top node, and I have these on the first level, these at the second level, and so on and so forth. So this is my full hierarchy of nodes in the for cost center, and within there, obviously, I'll have the cost centers as well, right?
Yeah.
And if I wanted to change one of these, let's say for these 405, I wanted to create a sub node. So I can select this 405, and I want to select this, and then say, okay, what do I want to do with this hierarchy? I can say, I want to add this, I want to delete this node. I can say, okay, I want to add a new node. What parent node should I select? So let's say I want to create 405 as the parent node, a new sub node. I want DG demo 405, -1, 4051. I can give a description. Right, and I can validate this. So again, in this case, I only have one line, and so it's identifying that there's only one node that I'm processing. And so it identifies that. Now, if I had done this to an existing node, let's say instead of 4051, I'm saying I want to create a new subgroup node, which is 401. it automatically tells me I can't add this node because it already exists. Right? So it does those sort of, it can build those rules to do those validations. In this case, if I correct it again, it says now it's fine. I can validate this. It now, as soon as I click on validate, it's actually connecting to SAP, doing that validation back in SAP, and then giving me the feedback. So this is the SAP feedback. And then I can say,
And what kind of validation is doing here back in SAP? Is that you can place it below DG demo 405?
correct. It's actually trying to do that, but not clicking on the save button. So it's actually doing all the steps, but not saving it in SAP.
Okay. Yes.
And then I'm going to click on submit. And then again, this will go to the next stage. And again, the same sort of process. So now I will receive a task in my inbox here in a second. And I'll receive an email as well. And then, yeah, I can basically pick that up and then process it. I'll pick one of these old ones. Right. So once it's approved through a couple of stages, once it's approved, then it comes to the shared service center. Let's say now they want to process one of these tasks. They could, again, validate it. And if it's validated, they can just say, okay, now post this hierarchy node, and it will be posted in SAP. Right. So this is specifically for your hierarchy example that we had discussed. So the first example was cost center with all the lookups, etc. This one was more hierarchy management, and then you can combine all of this in one solution as well. It's just that I had built it in as two separate solutions.
And here you show the hierarchy. You can see very little part of the hierarchy. So I guess it's possible for you to reduce the size, the font size, and actually have 100 line of hierarchy if that's what you want to see.
Yeah, if you want to see the whole hierarchy, you can absolutely. But I would, in a web-based form, I would argue how much can the user filter through. But yes, you can actually display it, and then you can build search functions within a table to kind of search.
Yeah, it's just if the user do not really know exactly the name and has to look a little bit around, it will require a lot of try and error if it's just showing like 20 lines.
Yeah. Okay. Sure. So yeah, some of those things can be done. Yeah.
Okay, and it's extracting the data from SAP using SAP standard extractors, because I think part of the challenge with the hierarchies is that the sets, it's completely unstructured. It's really bad how this is structured in SAP. But actually, when we extract that using BW, for instance, then the structure is good. So do you know how the backend solution has been to actually extract this?
So we are using SAP tables to do the extraction. So we've joined multiple SAP tables, and that's exactly how BW would do as well, right? So the way BW is powered is you are joining the tables, creating a cube, sending it to BW, and then BW is generating a report. In this case, we are doing the same thing. We are just we are connecting multiple tables and doing that extract. And to your point about, if you had 100 lines here and then you wanted to search for something, let's say you wanted to search for 405, you click OK, it kind of does the search within the tables, right? So you can have a large list and then you can search for a specific criteria and then it will search within that table. So you can have a large list and just search.
And I guess you can also put some logic here. For instance, you just enter 405 was in 501 or something, or 401 below. So you also could put some naming convention that everything below level 1 on DG demo 4 needs to be named DG demo 4 and then something.
Right? Correct. So yeah. So your naming in my first example, I had a very open naming convention. But what you can have is when you are creating this, you follow a right naming convention. So based on your input criteria, the name is automatically built based on a rule. So that way, everything that goes in always is consistent. The side effect to that is if you want to do realignment of of hierarchies, then how do you do that?
But I guess realignment of hierarchies, you would not use the same solution, right? Because here maybe like some one or other changes, and then a realignment. It would probably make more sense that you use Excel and load things with Excel.
Correct. So let's go through that. So any final questions on this before we go into the Excel scenario? We've got 15 more minutes, so we can.
No, I think it looks good.
Okay, fantastic. All right, so the next example is the Excel-based solution. So I'll first cover a simple one, and then we'll go through a more complex one. So obviously you can do mass upload into SAP, but let's look at an example where you want to change. You already have list of cost centers in SAP. You just want to change some of the data. So here I have a Excel template with only small number of fields in my template. I have a Windshuttle add-in within Excel. I have a couple of scripts here. So I want to query cost centers from SAP into Excel. So if I select query cost centers, I click on the run option, and then I can decide, how do I want to do the extract? Do I want to extract it based on a specific hierarchy? Do I want to extract it in a number range, in a specific controlling area? You decide how you want to extract it. So you can build this filter criteria. I click OK, and then it goes into SAP, connects to all the tables, and then extracts all the relevant records in my Excel. So you can see 330 records were extracted from SAP into my Excel. Right now, I can make any changes that I need to make here. I want to change let's say the cost center category from 4 to 5. Now, you don't know as an end user what this cost center category is. You can extract the names of these category as well. But if you don't know what to enter here, you could actually click on lookup values. Okay. You can click on this lookup values, and it gives me the SAP search help. Right, so it gives me the SAP search help what those values are. So let's say I want to change one of these to 5, and I override it with existing data. So right, so I've updated this line number 3 with 5, and then I want to update all of these records. So I'm just going to click on the run option. So even before I update, I could do validation. Right, so it's very similar to what I did in the web form. I validated it, gave me a success message, and then I could update it. In this case, I'm just going to go with the run option. And wherever it has made the change, it will say changes made. Wherever it does not make a change, it's just saying no changes made. So
may I ask a question? Which field does it take as the primary field here? Like, what if I change all the fields?
Yeah, and that's fine. So that's defined by the developer. So the developer defines what is uploaded into SAP and what are the inputs to SAP. So in this case, if I'm not wrong, my controlling area, cost center category, and I think description. Those are the inputs. Everything else is not possible to update. Right, so you as a developer define, and then if you wanted to kind of color code what the inputs are, you can color code it. You can change the descriptions. You can realign it. Yeah, you can do all.
So we can make, for example, cost center number. That's no touch. That's will always remain the same, and then depending on that, the rest fields can be changed. Yeah.
Absolutely, yeah. So that's one example, and it clearly highlights what was changed. Even this Excel file can be put through a workflow. So the Excel can go into go to an approval. So someone in the business can request it. It can come to the master data team. They approve it, and then it goes into SAP. So you can do that. The difference is difference between this and the web form is the web form you can have lots of rules to pre-populate, auto-populate, have those pull-down menus from reference data lists, etc. In the Excel scenario, you are relying on all the Excel functionality and this extract and upload functionality that's provided by Windshuttle, by the Windshuttle, right? So you lose some of the rules, but you gain on mass data management.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's
you can still build some rules in Excel. They will not be as advanced, but at least you can put something there, right?
Correct. You can build rules, and you can build it in such a way that the users can't change it. So you can actually build those Excel rules within the script itself, so that on runtime some of those rules are running. So yeah, you can do those things.
So Ilya, I would expect that our first solution is built on this, so we can already do mass maintenance with the cost centers, and then as we get an input from the business, then we can create the form.
Yeah, we can discuss
for
that.
the cost center
That's not a
request.
problem.
Yeah.
So similarly, you can do, mass creation of cost centers if that's the requirement. Let's say you are doing, you mentioned last time, if you do an acquisition or if you're doing a realignment, you might want to create it in mass and then assign it to specific hierarchies. You could do that, right? So you can create a full template with all the fields, and you can do mass maintenance of cost and mass upload of cost centers. You can do the same thing of mass maintenance, not just 2 or 3 fields, but all the fields that you are interested in, right? So here I have all the fields that I might have want to change. All of them are in this template, and I can make those changes and then upload it back, right? Now, and here you can see these are only read only. I can't change this. Everything else I can change. So this is what we were discussing early on, right? And while I make the change, or while I was making the change in the earlier examples, if I just go back to that for a second, you see there's a sheet that got created while the changes was being made, and that sheet is this backup data. So it actually captures what was in SAP before I made the change. So what was in SAP before I made the change, and the update cost center has the most up-to-date values. Now this is useful if you did, let's say, the change 1 day in advance and you want to do an undo, or you did some mistakes and you wanted to undo these. You could just run that script on this backup sheet, and then and you can undo your changes. Or it can also be used for audit purposes, right? You can have a full view of what was changed and what was the values before.
You can ask a question here. So as I see, there's probably 2 options, how we can do this from the end user perspective. Either we can allow end user to enter data into this file and right away do this button to upload things, and then we need to train them on how to deal with this file and how to work with it, or they can just fill up similar file which just gets copy pasted by some specific team, and they do the thing with WinShuttle and upload the data when they validated it. Which path would you suggest in this case? Or is there a third path maybe which I'm missing?
Can I comment on this? Because mass load is a bit or can be a bit tricky. You need to know what you're doing because you could do a lot of bad things if you change it to something that is not there. So at least in PS, the take is that the master data stewards will get the access here, but not all end users. So we should try to limit the amount of people having the mass load functionality in their role. And that's basically to avoid, because if you get it to an end user and they are not sure what they're doing, they can type in a lot of data that can cause you lead to big issues that you need to go in and correct afterwards.
Yeah. The only adjustment to that is if you did want to enable your business users, you still can to enable them to do the extraction and make the changes within Excel, but they can't upload that to SAP. So you can limit that they can't upload that into SAP. Then that file gets routed to your master data stewards. They can then do the final review, and then they are the only ones who have authorizations to upload it. So that sort of control can be built.
Yes.
But I think we don't kind of define the best practice here because each customer is so different that they need to manage it themselves.
Certainly your idea, actually, of the user being able to compile and validate the data and then move it into the Excel workflow for approval before the final execution is a good one, isn't it?
Yeah.
So they can't actually transact.
Mhm.
Yeah, you can't. Until it's approved, it will not allow them to load it to a production system.
It could be a good middle ground, but it still requires then training of the end user in how to do these things, right?
Yeah, you still need to explain them, how the add-in works, what is a query, what is a transaction.
And but does in this case end user require any license for Windshuttle or no?
Yes, they would require a basic license, not a developer, but a basic runner license,
They will need the professional license, otherwise they cannot. Yeah,
that's right.
So then definitely not giving out left and right these licenses.
No, it should be controlled for sure.
So it's also reflecting on that today the only ones that can do mass load normally is IT, because they use the LSMW workbench to do that, and then we have a few programs that actually allow the users to do end users, again certain end users, specific end users, to do the mass loads from Excel or from a SAP front end screen.
And then Mikkel, how are you doing actually the interface when you need to extract queries, or when you need to put data into SAP? Is that like a Windshuttle user in SAP, or is the user doing the request?
That's the user.
So by default,
you need to keep the traceability clear in SAP. So that also means that the users doing the uploads, changing the data in SAP, that are the initials that are also stamped in SAP.
But then how are you going? But at the same time, can you then remove their rights to the same transaction they are using Windshuttle for?
We can actually, and we have, but it requires SAP chains of doing that. But we will be doing that for the material master, because we can end up in a solution where we have a workflow running in Excel, and then at the same time the user goes in directly to SAP and do a change, and we don't want to have that. So for the material master, we have created a user exit that actually checks if the material is managed by Windshuttle or it's managed by SAP.
Okay, is that the best practice from you guys as well? Because I mean, that's basically what we want. If you use Windshuttle for master data management, you want to go through that channel.
Yeah, so we can't take the access out. So we can't take the transaction access out, because Windshuttle is using the transaction code as well to process it. So we can't really take the transaction code access out. The only other option that is possible is they could do it through BAPIs. So we can, through Windshuttle, we upload via BAPIs, and in that way, you can take the T code out, but the BAPI route still works. And in SAP, they don't have access to BAPI. So that way, that sort of would work. Yeah. So, but Michael, how are you going to do it using user exits? Can you?
Yeah, so basically when the user tries to go into MM01 or 02, for each material, there is a classification field that is set that contains material type. The material, it could contain material numbers, but the main point is actually that it contains a switchable selection, where you can either select this material is maintained within Windshuttle, and then in the user exits, before it actually enters into the SAP standard transaction, it will prompt you and say, no, you are not allowed to go here, you need to go to Windshuttle. But it is a user exits, and I'm not really fond of user exits, but that's a way that we need to control, because we cannot have the users going into SAP transactions at the same time.
Yeah.
Correct.
And I also know from other companies that are doing more or less the same as you are at Windshuttle, they normally would take a copy of the standard transaction and put it into another one, and then close it. So they do something like this.
Yeah.
But what is a contingency in this case? What if Windshuttle is down?
But what we have done is that we created specific users that are able to go behind. But I would say if Windshuttle is down, SAP is down, and the network is down as well. So that's probably the most likely scenario. Windshuttle cannot do it because SAP is not available. That's probably the most the situation will end on it. But we have like core master data, the ones with the specific roles, and also with the quite broad roles in SAP today. They will have a backdoor going in, but they need to write down in either NC or at least somewhere where they will need to state, yes, I went directly through this and I did this and this and this and this and this. Mm-hmm. So you keep the traceability, because we are having a workflow running in Windshuttle that we rely on as part of the traceability and at least the approval part. And then you can also combine that with what is happening in SAP.
So one customer that has done this is all the interactions through the browser, all the interactions through the form happens through a service user ID. So Windshuttle uses a service user ID. So you lose the traceability in SAP. In SAP, your cost center updates would always say Windshuttle service user ID. It will not have the end user service user ID. But that is one way of managing the authorization. So
because IT don't like that approach.
Sure, yeah.
So, but yeah, at least not in Novo. So that's why we went for the other one.
Yeah,
makes sense. I agree with that. But I just wanted to highlight that that is another option, and I have a couple of customers who've done this exactly for the same reason that you mentioned, Bruno, which is they don't want the end users to have access.
But Bruno, I think this is one of the situations where you actually need a SAP functional expert to join your team to be able to discuss this. And we have been using Sten Lønge for this, but you need that. And you probably will also trip upon stuff that is either not in the Barbie or in the function module that needs to be added and so on. And there you also need the functional experts from our SAP team to support that. But I think for this with the access, we have a concept. We only rolled it onto the material master, and we should probably have some talk around is this the best approach that we could have in Novo Nordisk, and do we actually want to have this strict access, or should we control it in our SOPs that actually guide the users? You need to do it this way, and not closing down SAP. You can say. So it's a balance that we need to find.
Yeah. Before we're done, may I ask a final thing? What I would like to see is how do you do the connection to Power BI or Tableau?
I'll just leave, but please continue, guys. Yeah. So thanks a lot for the demo.
Thanks, Bruno.
Thank you, Bruno.
Thank you, Bruno. Talk to you.
Bye.
Bye.
Yeah. So all of this data is on SQL database. So the backend is all SQL, and for these reporting, for all of these, process and data, we have created reporting. There are about 6 different reporting views that are already created, predefined. And so your Power BI or Tableau can just consume those reporting views.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah, so it's just pure SQL reporting views.
Nice.
You have the standard APIs that we go through to extract the data into Tableau, and then we do the analysis in Tableau, basically. PS.
Yeah, nice. From me, that's it. That was all the questions, and thank you very much for presentation. It was very, very, very useful.
Good. Thank you for making the time.
It looks promising.
Yeah, definitely does.
Very good.
And hopefully then we'll be in touch with training and all that other stuff.
Absolutely. As we said, we stand here ready to help you get trained and get you to launch into a new area. That'd be absolutely fantastic. Wonderful. And actually, thank you for that. That was really skillfully done. That was great. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for making the time. And if you have any other questions, Ilya, I mean, I went through your documents and all the logic that you had for rules. They all make sense, and I think we covered some of them already in today's presentation.
Yeah.
But yeah, if you have any other questions, just let us know.
And the final bit of administration, I will deal with the recording and I will service it on a private link to everybody.
Perfect. Thank you very much.
I have a little other question, actually. The presentation, could you forward that? from yesterday.
Yes. No, I will.
Ah, yes.
Thank you.
Sorry, I'm preparing for the STC to accept, and Tim will be very happy if you forward that.
He'll be very, very happy.
I will do it right away. Yes.
Okay.
Perfect.
Yeah.
And
Okay.
just
Thanks, guys.
delete the slides if there's something that you don't want
Thank
me
you.
to use,
Sure.
right?
Sure.
Definitely.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay.
Have a good afternoon.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Okay. Bye-bye.